A look at the legacy of the former Star Trek star Nichelle Nichols, best known for playing Lieutenant Uhura, who's died aged 89.
Before her death, Nichelle Nichols, best known for playing Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek, finally spoke out about the discrimination and struggles she faced behind the scenes of the iconic show. After years of silence, Nichols' revelations offered a deeper, more painful glimpse into a side of Star Trek that most fans had never imagined. While the series projected a hopeful future where people of all backgrounds worked together in unity, the reality behind the camera was far more complex for Nichols. When Star Trek premiered in 1966, it introduced a groundbreaking vision of a diverse and cooperative future. Among the most prominent symbols of that vision was Lieutenant Uhura, portrayed by Nichols with calm authority and poise. Her presence on the bridge wasn't just science fiction, it was history in the making. At a time when black women on television were often relegated to roles as maids or background characters, Nichols played a capable officer whose value extended beyond her race or gender. Her performance offered young black girls a rare and powerful role model, someone who showed them they could be intelligent, respected, and part of the future. Yet, as Nichols later revealed, her time on the show was filled with unseen struggles. She confirmed rumors that had circulated for years. She often felt ignored, her lines were reduced or cut, and her presence was downplayed in promotional materials. Despite the significance of her character, there were people behind the scenes who wanted her impact minimized. Her portrayal was not only a public achievement, but a private challenge, one that demanded strength and perseverance in the face of exclusion. Nichols' influence went far beyond the screen. Whoopi Goldberg once said that seeing Uhura made her realize that black women had a place in space and the future. Mae Jemison, the first black woman in space, also credited Nichols as her inspiration. These real-world impacts are proof of how deeply Nichols' role resonated. But even as she changed lives, Nichols often felt sidelined. That disconnect between her public significance and her private experience weighed heavily on her. Born on December 28, 1932, in Robbins, Illinois, Nichols, originally named Grace Dell Nichols, grew up in a large family with deep values and a love for the arts. She renamed herself Nichelle, meaning victorious maiden, and pursued a career in performance. Trained in ballet from the age of 12, she became a successful singer and dancer, touring with big bands like those of Duke Ellington and Lionel Hampton. Her early career included work in musicals like Carmen Jones and Porgy and Bess, and even modeling. Her talent caught the eye of Hugh Hefner, who hired her to perform at the Chicago Playboy Club, and in 1967, she made the cover of Ebony magazine. Nichols' acting breakthrough came when she joined Star Trek, but her journey there wasn't easy. She had previously worked with Gene Roddenberry on The Lieutenant, a show that addressed racial issues head-on. Yet even on Star Trek, the very show that promised equality, Nichols faced treatment that made her consider walking away. Despite her character's cultural significance, Nichols felt her role was often undervalued. Her lines were cut, and her scenes were minimized. She was offered a role on Broadway, her lifelong dream, and after finishing the first season of Star Trek, she decided to leave the show. When she told Roddenberry of her decision, he didn't stop her. He listened, then asked her to take the weekend to reconsider. If she still wanted to quit on Monday, he'd support her. That weekend would prove pivotal. At a banquet hosted by the NAACP, Nichols was informed that a fan wanted to meet her, someone who had been deeply impacted by her role. That encounter would change everything. Thinking it would be a typical Star Trek enthusiast, Nichelle Nichols was stunned to find herself face-to-face with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at an NAACP banquet. He greeted her warmly, full of admiration, and spoke about the profound importance of her role, not merely as entertainment, but as a symbol for Black Americans. Dr. King emphasized that her presence on Star Trek sent a powerful message to children, families, and viewers who dreamed of a more inclusive future. He told her that her character was not just acting, it was activism. Her role, he said, was as impactful as a protest or speech, opening minds and changing perceptions. Those words stayed with Nichols. On Monday morning, she walked back into Gene Roddenberry's office and rescinded her resignation. When she shared Dr. King's encouragement, Roddenberry grew emotional. He had always fought for a diverse cast and had stood by Nichols when she voiced concerns about being marginalized. He valued her input and allowed her to help shape her character. Roddenberry's vision was always of a future where race, gender, and background didn't limit anyone's potential. Through Nichols, that vision was becoming reality. Her character wasn't noteworthy because she was different, she was simply excellent at her job. Intelligent, skilled, and respected, Lieutenant Uhura stood as proof that inclusion was both possible and powerful. Nichols' decision to stay became a defining moment, not just for her, but for generations to come. Whoopi Goldberg, as a young girl, was deeply inspired by seeing a black woman portrayed with dignity and purpose on screen. It led her to eventually join Star Trek: The Next Generation as Guinan, a role created specifically for her. Likewise, Mae Jemison, the first black woman to travel into space, credited Nichols with showing her that such dreams were valid. Nichols chose not to walk away, even when it was difficult. She stayed, fought through the challenges, and became a beacon for others. With Roddenberry's support and King's encouragement, she came to understand her role on the bridge was not just about television, it was about shaping the future. But Nichols' challenges didn't end there. One of the most controversial and groundbreaking moments in her career came in 1968, during an episode titled Plato's Stepchildren. In that episode, Lieutenant Uhura and Captain James T. Kirk, played by William Shatner, shared what would become one of the first interracial kisses ever aired on American television. The scene was brief, but its impact was seismic. NBC, concerned about potential backlash during a time of heightened racial tensions, urged the cast to shoot alternate versions of the scene without the kiss. Nichols and Shatner refused. In fact, Nichols later revealed that Shatner intentionally botched every take of the alternate version by making exaggerated faces or looking away at the last second, ensuring the only usable footage was of the kiss. The network reluctantly aired the original version on November 22, 1968. Despite NBC's fears, the response from viewers was overwhelmingly positive. Letters poured in, many praising the bold move. While a few complaints surfaced, they were drowned out by support. Nichols even received a letter from a white man in the South who admitted he didn't approve of interracial relationships, but couldn't deny the power of what he'd seen. That kiss, however brief and framed within the show as being influenced by alien mind control, sent a clear message. It showed that intimacy, respect, and equality could transcend racial boundaries, even on mainstream television. For Nichols, the moment was deeply meaningful, not just professionally, but personally. She had already made history by portraying one of the first black women on television in a role that wasn't based on stereotype. Uhura was smart, respected, and integral to the crew's success. The kiss built upon that legacy, challenging viewers to reconsider their assumptions about race and relationships. Over the years, it has become a landmark moment in both television history and American culture, a signal that progress was not only possible but already underway. Young viewers watching that scene saw more than just a kiss. They saw a future where people of all races could share love, leadership, and mutual respect, something many had never imagined seeing on television. For Nichelle Nichols, it was more than just a scripted moment, it was a bold statement, a step toward change, and a lasting legacy. Different races could come together as equals. That's what Nichelle Nichols helped audiences witness. In that groundbreaking moment, she and William Shatner created something deeply meaningful under tremendous pressure and uncertainty. While Nichols often joked about the kiss at public events, she never forgot its significance. She knew that, in that short on-screen moment, they made a breakthrough. It wasn't dramatic or forced, they moved through it with grace and conviction, and that's what made it powerful. Nichelle Nichols, Beyond the Starship. Even after Star Trek ended in 1969, Nichelle Nichols continued to stay involved with the franchise. She remained closely connected by voicing Lieutenant Uhura in Star Trek, the animated series, where Uhura even took command of the Enterprise in the episode The Lorelei Signal, a moment Nichols had hoped for during the original series but never received. Her bond with Star Trek didn't stop there. She reprised her role as Uhura in 6 Star Trek films, culminating with Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, giving fans a final glimpse of her iconic character on the big screen. In 1994, Nichols published her autobiography Beyond Uhura, Star Trek and Other Memories, where she opened up about her career, the challenges she faced, and behind-the-scenes stories. She revealed that during Star Trek's final season, she was offered a role on the show Mannix, but Gene Roddenberry didn't allow her to break her contract. Still, she kept working steadily. She had smaller roles in movies like Dr. You've Got to Be Kidding, 1967, and the blaxploitation film Truck Turner, 1974, alongside Isaac Hayes. Though it was her only role in that genre, it showed her range as an actress. Nichols also became known for her voice acting. She lent her voice to various animated shows, including Futurama, where she joined the Vice Presidential Action Rangers and voiced her own preserved head in a jar. She also portrayed Diane Mazza in Gargoyles and voiced Oathkopyra in Batman, the animated series, showing impressive range. In 2004, she guest-starred as herself on The Simpsons and played Cuba Gooding Jr.'s mother in Snow Dogs, further proving her enduring popularity. In 2006, Nichols took on multiple roles in the indie film Lady Magdalene's, playing the owner of a legal Nevada brothel while also serving as executive producer, choreographer, and even writing and performing songs for the film. Her talents extended to the stage too. She earned 2 Sarah Siddons Award nominations for Kicks and Company and The Blacks. Later in her career, she joined the cast of NBC's Heroes as Nana Dawson, a resilient grandmother caring for her family after Hurricane Katrina, one of her most emotionally grounded roles. Nichols continued acting well into her 70s and 80s. She played a psychiatrist in The Torturer, 2008, a singing boss in the sci-fi musical The Cabinets, 2009, and in 2016, joined the long-running soap The Young and the Restless as Neil Winter's mother. Her role earned her a Daytime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Guest Performer in a Drama Series, a testament to her enduring skill and versatility. The bonds behind the starship. For Nichols, Star Trek was about more than just groundbreaking television. It was about building real connections. Working alongside a diverse cast in a series that defied convention, she experienced both camaraderie and conflict. Her relationship with William Shatner, who played Captain Kirk, was complicated. Though they shared historic moments like the interracial kiss, they also faced off-screen tension and misunderstandings. However, with time, those issues softened, and Nichols eventually said they made peace and came to value each other's contributions. In contrast, Nichols shared a warm and respectful friendship with Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock. Their bond was deep and lasting. Nimoy made sure Nichols always felt seen, heard, and respected. He treated her as an equal and a vital part of the team. These bonds, the struggles, and the triumphs all contributed to the legacy Nichols carried far beyond the Enterprise bridge, making her not just a pioneer of science fiction, but a powerful figure in cultural history. His encouragement was deeply meaningful to Nichelle Nichols, especially as she navigated the challenges of being one of the few black women in a prominent television role. She felt seen and supported in his presence, which helped boost her confidence in her work. George Takei, who played Sulu, was another bright spot in her Star Trek journey. Kind, respectful, and always full of good humor, Takei brought joy to the set, and their friendship lasted well beyond their time on the show. DeForest Kelley, known as Dr. McCoy, was someone Nichols trusted and admired. She appreciated his gentle spirit and the fairness with which he treated everyone. On a busy, high-pressure set, Kelley remained consistently calm, kind, and good-natured, qualities that Nichols never forgot. These relationships made a lasting impact on Nichols' experience with Star Trek. While she didn't connect deeply with every cast member, she built genuine friendships with several of them. Some bonds grew slowly over time, while others provided instant comfort and encouragement. But beyond the friendships and fame, what else did Nichelle Nichols reveal about her time in Star Trek? A star beyond the screen. Nichelle Nichols' influence extended far beyond her role as Lieutenant Uhura. In her later years, she reflected on her career with gratitude and perspective. Her words offered comfort, her smile radiated resilience, and her presence reminded people of what it means to break barriers with grace. Though she had once considered leaving Star Trek and faced significant challenges, Nichols had no regrets. She understood that her work had helped shift the cultural landscape, not just in TV, but in society at large. Portraying Uhura was just the beginning. After the original series ended, Nichols turned her gaze toward the real stars, outer space. Her interest in space exploration wasn't limited to science fiction. She partnered with NASA on a groundbreaking recruitment program to bring more diversity into the space agency. Her advocacy inspired future astronauts and helped make space exploration more inclusive. Thanks in part to her efforts, NASA welcomed pioneers like Dr. Sally Ride, Colonel Guyon Bluford, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, Charles Bolden, Frederick Gregory, and Lori Garver, all of whom contributed significantly to the agency's mission and legacy. Nichols considered her role in supporting these individuals one of her greatest achievements. But her involvement didn't end there. She served on advisory boards, supported STEM programs, and maintained an active presence in the space community. In 2015, she even flew on a NASA mission that observed Mars and Saturn from high altitude, a literal and symbolic continuation of her lifelong connection to the stars. Even in her later years, Nichols remained warm and gracious at public events. She greeted fans with genuine happiness, offering encouragement and reminding them to believe in themselves and strive for their dreams. Her message was simple yet powerful: keep dreaming and keep moving forward. During her time on Star Trek, Nichols also showcased her musical talents, performing songs in several episodes. Later, she released 2 music albums, one featuring classic songs, and the other inspired by space and science with a modern twist. These albums reflected her artistic range and reminded the world that she was far more than just an actress. In her final reflections, Nichols emphasized unity, progress, and hope. She acknowledged that her path had been filled with challenges but chose to focus on the triumphs. Yes, the obstacles were real, but so were the victories. And that legacy of courage, creativity, and compassion is what Nichelle Nichols left behind, both on and beyond the starship. Personal life and reflections. Nichelle Nichols supported others while breaking ground herself, helping shift perspectives, open minds, and shape the future. Her efforts were honored in the documentary Woman in Motion, which beautifully captures her vital role in transforming space exploration. In her autobiography, Nichols shared details about her personal life, including a relationship in the 1960s with Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry. Although their romance lasted a few years, it ended before the show began, once Nichols discovered Roddenberry was also seeing Majel Hudek, who would later become Majel Barrett, his wife and a fellow Star Trek cast member. Despite the emotional complexity, Nichols honored Roddenberry at his memorial service by co-writing and performing a heartfelt song titled Gene. Nichols also revealed a brief but passionate romance with singer Sammy Davis Jr. in 1959, describing it as intense and unforgettable, though short-lived. She was married twice, first to dancer Foster Johnson in 1951, with whom she had a son, Kyle Johnson. That marriage ended the same year. In 1968, she married Duke Mondi, but they divorced in 1972. Nichols' personal life was not without tragedy. Her brother, Thomas, was a member of the Heaven's Gate cult and died during their mass suicide in 1997, timed with the appearance of Comet Hale, Balp. Thomas had been in the cult for about 20 years and noted his relation to Nichelle in its writings. Despite hardships, Nichols experienced moments of joy and honor. One special memory occurred on February 29, 2012, when she visited the White House and met President Barack Obama. During their meeting, Obama confessed he had a crush on her during his youth and was a devoted Star Trek fan. Nichols cherished this encounter as a symbol of how far-reaching her impact had been. Health and death. In June 2015, Nichols suffered a minor stroke at her Los Angeles home. Though not severe, it marked the beginning of a difficult period in her life. She began therapy and continued for a time with public appearances, but in early 2018, it was revealed she had been diagnosed with dementia. The news saddened fans, and she ultimately decided to step away from public life and conventions, a hard decision for someone who had always maintained close ties with her audience. Around the same time, her personal affairs became complicated. Her manager, who had also taken on caregiving responsibilities, faced accusations of exerting undue influence. Concerned for her well-being, her son Kyle Johnson petitioned for conservatorship in 2018, which was granted in early 2019. However, Nichols' longtime friend Angelique Fawcett opposed the conservatorship, citing concerns about being denied access to Nichols and suspecting something was wrong behind the scenes. Meanwhile, the former manager filed a lawsuit after being ordered to vacate the guesthouse on Nichols' property. As of August 2021, the legal matters had not been fully resolved. Sadly, Nichelle Nichols passed away on July 30, 2022, in Silver City, New Mexico, at the age of 89 from heart failure. In a symbolic tribute to her legacy in science fiction and real-world space advocacy, her ashes were sent into deep space alongside those of Majel Barrett and special effects pioneer Douglas Trumbull. Even in death, her final journey pointed toward the stars, just as she had inspired so many others to do in life.